if we're just jumping into it, I feel like I had more to just say to you as a human being, bro. Like, good morning. How are you? It's good to see you.
It's a good start to the podcast.
Good morning. How are you? It's good to see you.
You're like the character in the show that's always eating.
I'm Han from Fast and Furious.
Exactly, yeah. Or Sokka from Avatar. So
Nice
to
hat, bro.
start, well, yes, new
Yes.
hat, but even more important,
New
new phone. Look at
phone.
this thing. It's gorgeous. I love it.
Beautiful.
It's got the camera button on the side here on the top, and it's got the action button on the bottom, on the other side, which I have yet to experience before as well. They both work great. People are what?
Is that the one they were refusing to call a button?
No, that's the camera control. That's the new one. Yeah,
Ah,
because they call it camera control because they don't. Yeah, can't call it a button even though it's literally a button. Um,
that's
and
hilarious.
the theory is that they really focused in on camera control for this phone, where you can
Hmm.
extra optimize your photos to be more personal, to be more you. You can create different filters that are preset to your liking. It's all and obviously they advanced the camera a lot too. So most of their updates had to do with camera, which is why it's kind of like a camera control theme, and that button is the centerpiece. It's still a button though, and they will not call it a button. But that being said, a lot of people have complained about the placement of it, where it's
Hmm.
too awkward to have it down here and yet too over to be up here. It would need to be on the end for like landscape, and it would need to be like up higher to be nicer for holding your phone for portrait. I don't actually have a problem with that. I think I hold my phone weird or something, but when I'm holding it, I'm like, this is easy for me. And I like the slight press. I don't know. I think that it takes some getting used to, but you don't use it often enough to need to be super fast at it. And so I've had no
Sure.
problems.
I
I
feel
enjoyed
like
it.
in the future, all of the edges will just be smart touch, right? Like the
Right?
whole
I
around the
mean,
phone.
yeah,
So
I'm
you'll be
like they
able
could
to
have
do
just made the
whatever
button
motion at
bigger.
any point. And
Yeah.
sure, sure.
Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, dude. I see you went with the Pro. I
I
already knew
did.
that, but
I got the
that's
Pro.
awesome.
I got the black.
Hmm.
I wanted to get the cooler colors, but I wanted the best of the best, and I'm happy with it. It's been very fun. It's compared to the 14, it's got rounded edges. The titanium is very much a difference. It feels like matte, like if you would think of how that would feel compared to glossiness, and it does. So it feels like a big upgrade, and I'm very happy with that. But as far as AI goes, can't really talk about much because they haven't released like anything on it so far. So you can do little like math notes things, and it'll have more responses for the text messages, but I think it's things that came with iOS 18 that didn't include direct AI. So, not actual big AI updates to talk about yet. But that's, of course, coming soon. But I still think it's a worthwhile upgrade if you have the 14 or lower because you'll be able to have AI, but also you get all the camera and button updates. So, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's the phone update. It's exciting. I love it. I love the feel of it. It's lighter than my last one and yet feels so much sturdier.
Nice. Yeah, I can imagine having my phone without the case. I'm way too like I have to have a case on it. But Tucker just
It's
doesn't
sturdy
use
though.
a case anymore now, and it's like, but
It's
yeah,
nicer to
I
use your
mean,
phone without a
supposedly,
case. It is a sturdy phone,
sure.
and they made it even sturdier this year. They upgraded the glass again, so it's supposed to be like twice as strong or something. I haven't used these AirPods in a while. They're gonna run out of battery, but I wanted to anyway. So
All right, nice.
it's gonna match
I
you.
actually charged mine
Mm,
for once. I
wow.
know, it's crazy.
I want the AirPods 4. I don't use AirPods enough to really justify it unless it's a fun expense that I like save up for. But they're not terribly expensive to get the normal ones with noise cancellation. And they are a couple generations newer than mine, and they'd be charged by USB-C, so I'd be able to throw away all the lightning cables and etc. Cool perks. So
Well, dude, do you have AI updates? I have three things, so we could do kind of like a popcorn back and forth thing if you
let's
got a
do it.
couple.
I like that
Um,
because maybe you'll
yeah.
repeat mine. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I might have
you go
something that's the
first.
same as yours.
Probably not.
It's what like all of these are kind of I don't know. If you're interested, that's awesome, but updates. So I won't start with the one that I think is the most interesting. I don't know. I'll start with this, just basic. Um, they're discovering, this is going to shock you, by the way. Prepare to
I'm
be
ready.
shocked. That LinkedIn is using
What?
any
Oh,
information that you post or comment on or any activity at all to train its AI algorithms. I
Wow.
know it's using what you do. And what I love is that this is a setting. It is a setting, but it's something that's automatically turned on. And it's
That's
something that you
crazy.
can't undo, right? So any information that they have on you, they have, and it's been using it to train their AI. And you can go in and there's a way to shut it off and you can say, "Hey, stop taking my post," which aren't they just gonna like get it still from another direction? I don't know how that works, but supposedly you can turn it off. But there's, this article released like, "Hey, if you didn't know, LinkedIn is taking your information." It's like, yeah, duh. Social media platforms take your information so that they can be more effective in selling your attention. So
Hmm.
it wasn't too shocking, but it was kind of funny to me.
The nice thing about the camera button is that it's super cool. The annoying thing is that when you try to hold your phone in like a holder, it might be pushing on the camera button. Well, I'll troubleshoot that in the future. But anyway, yeah, no, I think that's funny. I think that it's funny that it seems like a trend that it's always turned on, so you have to turn it off.
Yeah,
It's not ever like
yeah,
an opt-in thing. It's always an opt-out. Not
yep. That
super
was mine. That was my
surprised.
first quick one.
Yeah. Okay,
All right,
quick one.
what you got?
Um, AI is getting really powerful and people are watching it. They're able to like have AI watch them play a game and then
Hmm.
like spit out all of the code needed to try to recreate that game. So you can
So like
watch
a
you
physical
play
game,
like,
like it's
yeah.
watching you play chess
Well, no, no, no.
on a board, or it's like a
Like you're having
video.
AI watch you play Angry Birds, for instance, and it
Oh,
can
okay,
see
okay,
all the
okay.
mechanics in use and how it's getting there, and then give you all the code to recreate it, which suddenly
Huh,
makes video games really irrelevant and hard to sell when some, knockoff game could be created by one person if it just
interesting.
trains off of that one, which obviously that's a pretty, cheating way of doing things. But also think about the Salesforce website and how if you just went on the website and you were using all the functionalities and showing everything that you can do with Salesforce, but having AI watch you do it, AI could then put out all the code to recreate the exact same software that can do all of the same things. And so it might take obviously a lot more time, a lot more computing power, and maybe an actual team, but even something that's as big as Salesforce and making that much money could be really irrelevant if someone could just create a competitor and sell it for $5 a month because, they want to be better than Salesforce and it didn't cost them very much to make it. So it's interesting to see AI, how it's going to shape how things are sold, what is put out for
Hmm,
free and what is sold, because it really has to be personal in a way that people can't copy, which is really hard right now for it to be worth more than the knockoff version. Seeing
that's
AI get more and more
interesting.
powerful and more able to like analyze things and then just recreate them from
I feel like they
scratch.
put laws around that?
That's what it
Like
seems like
there's got to be
regulation would make
some,
sense that,
right? Yeah. If you can
patent
just
your own
screen
website.
record anything and it just
Yeah.
duplicates it, that's wild.
Yep. All right, you got another one?
Cool. Hmm. I got another one. So they're using an AI tool. You remember COVID-19?
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a whole thing.
China virus.
But researchers were analyzing COVID-19 survivors, their tweets. And so they used AI to analyze all these tweets to identify um, people who were at risk for PTSD from facing COVID. So, like, they were extra anxious or depressed or whatever it may be. Literally, they sent an AI system to read everything that they posted online. And then the AI system was able to identify most of the people who would be at risk. So that was super interesting. It was like, okay, one thing people post, and that's, you can tell what's going on because of what they're
Hmm.
saying. But yeah, social media data offers potential for early mental health screening. This is some neuroscience news website, which was interesting to me. And then, okay, so the accuracy was 83% of identifying PTSD in COVID-19 survivors. But I was like, that's interesting. Just,
Wow.
I'm like, I assume that they well, I don't know. Maybe or maybe not, they got these people permission to scan their stuff. But if you can scan someone's stuff and see if they're facing a mental health disorder, that's kind of amazing. Um, and I don't know exactly what the practical, like it probably would be someone comes in like, hey, I'm facing these things, can you help me? And then they scan their stuff and say, okay, it looks like you're really dealing with this, possibly, versus you scan someone's stuff and then reach out to them and say, by the way, we've noticed you may be facing depression. Like you probably don't do that. But I think that there could be some really interesting,
Have you
um,
been dealing with homicidal intent? Because your tweets are
oh geez,
mean.
oh, geez. But no, but like you probably could go on and read people's stuff and sift through it and all that stuff. But if you can do it fairly instantly with an AI model that's going to read through all of it and then give you, a diagnosis, you probably want it to be more exact than
Yeah.
83%, but still super interesting to me.
Yeah. I mean, also, I don't know
Yeah.
how that has anything to do with COVID-19, but
Oh, that's just the category that they were in. They
okay,
were like, okay,
sure.
let's look at COVID-19 survivors specifically and see if they have PTSD, see if
Mm.
the machine can tell. And it could with 83% accuracy.
I was watching the All In podcast this Friday, and one of their main things they talked about at first was the fact that they think that call centers will be the first major disruptions in AI, because AI is already good at creating voices and being able to talk on the
Hmm.
phone, like the podcast that I was talking to you about. But on top of that, there's so much call data, there's so much scripts and product data, there's so much out there to be able to train an AI on your product and on what you sell to the point that it could help people with problems, especially if it's training off past problems that have been had. And
Sure.
the other factor of that is, I mean, and also call centers are so expensive to have a ton of people calling for you all at once or and taking calls. Um, but the other factor is that some people sometimes tend to not want to talk to an actual human. So they look it up online or,
Yeah.
research. They try to find a YouTube video. And if you knew you were calling and would very likely get a robot, but a robot that was trained on data and could actually probably help you versus the just, hey, what are you dealing with? And you have to like navigate this robot and try to get to a real human, but a robot that could actually help you, I think you'd be more likely to just call because you're like, hey, give me the AI device that's trained on specifically their product because I need help. And I think that it would be a major cost benefit. It would save them a lot of money. Obviously, it would take away a lot of jobs. So I don't know,
Sure.
you know, but that's gonna happen. But yeah, it's kind of that's what we're leaning towards, maybe the biggest shift in AI to start because we're all waiting for AI to actually impact us, and it has yet to actually do a ton other than memes and headlines.
Yeah.
But call centers and people who answer calls and for a living are
Yeah.
very likely actually going to be replaced when AI can do their job better, more efficient, and you can have one AI going out and answering 100 calls at once. So
Yeah. That's
yeah.
wild. It's so funny because I've definitely heard people complain, and probably this is the older generation about having to talk to a robot, and I would want to talk to a real person. But yeah, that's probably going away slightly.
Hmm.
And so as we get more, that's the norm. The norm is to talk to a robot that's smarter than we are. So yeah, interesting.
This was not even one of mine, but speaking of the replacement, Chipotle, did you see that one? Wait, was that your third
No, I
headline?
didn't.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Chipotle has started using machines that will like shred their avocados for them. They also have one that makes the chips, and then they actually have been utilizing AI to know what quantities of food to make based on like previous days to be able to read that data and like
Smart.
know how much they'll need of everything. But there's this actual whole machine that a bowl will be like going through inside of it and being dumped specific portions. Because also, did you hear about the whole problem with the portion sizes being so much smaller?
No, I didn't.
Chipotle had so many negative reviews, and it was fair. Like I watched a whole analysis of it. They had actually started like lowering and lowering their percentages to be this like pitiful, awkward amounts. And Chipotle was known for like giving you a ton, like Panda Express, like just heaping it on. And so they just tanked in value. But this is also in response to that, kind of addressing that they can actually have consistent and fair amounts of food being given through this machine. And so it's like partially running on AI, but also they've been using AI in their schedules. But they talked about how because minimum wage is going up, companies can't afford to even pay it anymore. And so they're starting to look into replacing employees, period. It's kind of pushing towards firing people. So they're laying off workers and having those, machines that you can order at. Obviously, a lot of ones are doing that. Some are investing in AI voices to be able to take orders so that you don't need people answering the drive-through. And now they're making the meals too. So we're really getting into the robots and AI phase of fast food not needing humans because our economy is not great right now and minimum wage is insane and people can't keep up with it. So,
Crazy.
mm-hmm,
The number of times that the humans from Wall-E pop into my head during these
mm-hmm,
conversations,
yeah, just
it's
feeding us food.
crazy.
It's crazy. Then they
Yeah,
put it in the
right?
blender and you can just order any smoothie you want of any Chipotle flavor. Ugh.
Gross.
Yeah.
In a cup. Look at that. Um, cool. All right. I have one more.
Okay.
And this one is interesting, but also um, a little more complicated, so it goes above my head. So I've got the article pulled up, so I'll try to, summarize it to the best of my ability. And if you're interested, you can look into it more. But this is one, a company. Did you hear about Letta?
No.
Okay, so Letta was an AI startup that's been kind of under the radar. And so they just kind of came out of the, what did they say, of stealth, whatever, right?
Okay.
They're like, hey, we're a thing and we're doing stuff.
Hey, we're a thing.
Um, did you hear about GPT? Mem?
Nope.
Okay. Well, basically what this is, the reason I thought you might be interested in it, specifically you, is because multiple times we've had that conversation about you talking about how ChatGPT is supposed to be able to get to know you and learn these things about you and how it's kind of terrible at it. Basically what this is this is supposed to fix that. So a lot of AI models supposedly can learn things about you and start to have this backstory of information that they use for future answers, right? But they actually don't have any place to store that information. So it's really clunky. It just hasn't been working. So they released this thing called MemGPT where it's actually storing information and now able to, like get to know you and all these things, right? So it was interesting to me because Letta is trying to do that for any AI model. So like you can run any AI in it, so it's more open source stuff, pushing for that so that it's easier for what's the word I'm looking for? People who make stuff.
Creators, developers.
Developers, yeah, it's easier for developers to like make stuff and see in the weeds so that they're not running into as much AI hallucination and stuff like that. Anyway,
Hmm.
so one of the interesting applications in this article that I was reading about was since it's able to actually learn things now, it's able to get to know you as a person now. It's able to have this backstore and reliably use it. They were suggesting slash looking into making an AI for cancer patients by feeding it all of these stories from cancer patients, all of these things that they experienced, the symptoms they experienced, the treatments that they went through, and learning how to comfort them and stuff like this. So basically, feeding into it something that's not just scraping the internet, but actually has a specific niche thing that's been fed into it to develop this specific AI. So it's supposed to help developers. It's supposed to be a way for them to store information. I feel like there was something else that stuck out to me about it. They were worried that it might become kind of obsolete because of OpenAI o1,
Hmm.
because that's supposedly going to get better at having information since it'll be like multi-step. I don't know what that means. I have to look into it more.
That's one of my next
But
ones.
oh, really? Oh, I won't talk about
Hmm.
it then. But
Okay.
but yeah, it's not they're not the only people doing this, but it was interesting that they're trying to be, they said, the open alternative to OpenAI. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that was interesting to me. That was my last one, but more
Nice.
complicated than I can understand without looking into it
Always.
some more. But
Always.
right, I know.
Like I wrote down
Yeah,
what I read. I don't understand it, but I'll share it.
yeah, right. I know. If the words I'm saying make sense to anyone, then they probably know everything that I'm saying wrong, right? They're
Hmm.
like, gibberish.
No, yeah,
But
ChatGPT, one of my notes was that it is better than I initially thought because I know I ranted about it last time and how it still couldn't guess the amount of letters in a sentence, but it
right.
can't do these simple things and it can't remember to bold things. And I don't know how it does with its memory. But that being said, it can handle more complex things a lot better. So, and also its answer time is so long. it'll actually give you really long answers. So it struggles to do simple things, but it can do large mathematical problems. It can create video games. It can like give large charts of data and conclusions based on like economic health or political tax plans and like the comparison and what it thinks would be better or worse. It's more personalized for like book analyses, so you can like the upgrade is like this thought processing. So
Mm-hmm.
it'll say thought for 32 seconds or something like that, and it'll show you that it's like I read this part and I concluded this, and this character was doing this, then this character did this. Is it's like trying to reason why they did that and what the meaning of the story is and where the story's headed, and then it'll give you a whole conclusion of what happened in the scene and what the character was thinking and why they did their action and where the story's going to go or whatever. It's so it is cool. It is better, and it is better at like really reading into it and then also giving a minute to actually answer it instead of taking like 10 seconds and not giving you what you asked for because it can't do it in 10 seconds. So I made a Tetris game. I
Uh-huh.
made a
Nice.
browser Tetris game. I asked how to do it. It ran me through the steps. I said I was on a Mac. How do I get started with that? So it told me like the apps to use. That was free. I just used text edit, put it on a folder or yeah, and then opened up the file and I made a little online Tetris game. And after I made it, it like gave me prompts at the bottom. I haven't seen that before where it said like how to add levels or can I save my progress? And so
Oh,
you
that's
can
cool.
then like add, you can say those prompts and it'll be like, okay, here you go. I rewrote the code so that I could do that. So I told it to make it so that the different Tetris blocks were different colors. So here, let me share my screen because it's fun. So I check it, it falls, and then you can control it, and you can make it go down faster and flip
Interesting.
it, and then yeah, and so it's fun. And so I made it, yeah, I made it so that all the different shapes going down would be different colors. There's a bit of a glitch in the system where if you're at the end and then you turn it, it tries to go through the other
Oh,
screen and you can't
funny.
move it. So then you have to like turn it until it's back in one screen, and then you can move it again.
Oh,
But anyway,
funny.
I'm not good at Tetris. I've figured out through this. I'm obviously not trying right now, but it is cool. I'm trying to look for one of the long pieces so we can see all the colors. Come on. Well, there we go.
Nice.
But anyway, and yeah, and it actually works. You know, when you get a whole row, it goes away. It shows the little score at the bottom, and it shows also when you lose. But yeah,
There you
no,
go.
it's fun, and I could have kept going. You know, I could have been like, I want it to be full screen for the entire window instead of like this up and down. Like I probably could tell it to make a website and run through the same processes of basically just copy and pasting code that it writes. So I got distracted. I was doing like a work thing for like a minute after I wrote a prompt, and then I went back to be like, I wonder if it actually wrote out like the code. I didn't know if I'd make it or not. But it was on the third code of the actual game, and I scrolled to the very bottom, and then it was still typing it out. And I was like, it actually will go for like a minute or more, and it was efficient, and it was more, it was better structured in the response, easy to copy paste, easy to understand. So
That's
I
awesome, dude.
didn't love it at first, didn't love the O1, but that's just because the couple problems I've had with ChatGPT were not really resolved. But as far as it being more powerful and more capable, it definitely is, and so people are utilizing that to do a lot of cool things.
Was that the last one on your list?
No, but
Oh,
basically, did you have
you got
more?
tidbits? No,
I got
I'm
literally a
done.
tidbit. I was gonna call it a tidbit.
Tidbit. All right.
Chinese AI doesn't have the same copyright as US. So if you ever use a Chinese
Also
AI,
not shocking.
you can create GIFs of like Will Smith or Mario. You can make them do little short things, or you can create images or whatever. But these things that most US AI tools won't let you do because of the copyright, you can just go over to a Chinese made
Funny.
one and do it anyway. So
Funny.
that was kind
That's
of
great.
funny.
Good
So they
tidbit.
recreated Will Smith eating noodles, and it looked at least a little better. We need to have AI watch a bunch of videos of humans eating food.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's important.
That's good.
Anyway,
Cool. Well, that was the last one.
that was the last one.
Dude, that's how you do an AI Monday podcast.
Talking about AI.
Yeah, but we
Right,
like
that's
had a lot of
crazy.
things to talk about this week. It's
No,
good.
I was
It's
actually,
good.
it's because I watched All In Friday, and then I
Yeah.
got a couple of those other notes over the weekend watching random videos that had to do with AI. So by the time Monday actually rolls
Nice.
around, I create a Tetris game this morning, but still, otherwise, I'm like, wait, I had stuff for the whole week. I can talk about
Heck
it
yeah.
all.
Nicely done.
Yeah. I want to thank the listeners.
Thank you, listeners.
See you next week.
See ya.